name is Aneka. Last name is Skib.
Skib. Got it. Okay, go ahead. You may inquire.
Before the courtroom even settles, tension is already thick. Judge Simpson is ready, the witness is nervous, and the defense looks uneasy. Today's case isn't some petty argument. It's about a night that spiraled into chaos between ex-partners, one desperate to leave, the other desperate to hold on. What begins as a visit to see a child turns into a violent mess that leaves one person bruised and the other accused of domestic violence. Every word in this testimony carries emotional weight: guilt, fear, and confusion. The audience can almost feel the unease through the screen. But here's the real question. Is this a case of intentional harm or a night that went horribly wrong because of alcohol and emotions running wild? Keep watching because the line between accident and abuse is about to get dangerously blurry.
Ms. Skib, do you recall April 19th of 2023?
Yes.
And where were you that day?
I was at my apartment.
And what is your apartment address? And, Your Honor, I would ask the court take judicial notice of it being in Pittsfield Township.
Court will take judicial notice of that. That is in Pittsfield.
And who were you there with?
I was with our son and Mr. Riley.
Okay, so when you say our son, who is the R?
Mr. Riley and I have a son together.
Okay, and what is Mr. Riley's first name?
Timothy.
Okay, and do you see Timothy Riley in the courtroom today? And can you tell me something he's wearing?
He's wearing a dark blue shirt and a vest and tie.
And let the record reflect that this witness has identified the defendant as Timothy Riley.
Without objection, record shall reflect. Go ahead.
And at that time, were you still in a relationship with Mr. Riley?
We were trying to make a relationship work, at the very least for our son. So.
And was he living in your apartment with you at that time?
No.
And was anyone else in the home besides you or your son or Mr. Riley? And can you tell me what happened that day?
After the witness is asked what happened that day, her hesitation says everything. Her tone shifts, her eyes wander, and you can tell she's reliving something painful. When she mentions they ended up fighting, it's clear this wasn't a one-time disagreement. This was a relationship full of emotional threats and manipulation. She admits he'd use leaving as a weapon, which reveals a deep layer of control and emotional blackmail. But notice how she softens her words when describing physical aggression. It's almost like she's defending him even while testifying against him. That's classic in many domestic cases. The victim wrestles with loyalty and trauma at the same time. What do you think? Is she protecting him or protecting herself from the truth?
So he came over to see his son, and then we kind of got into it, which happens really often, but they ended up fighting and yelling, and I didn't want that around. Our son's name is Graham. So kind of what happens in those situations is that there's this threat to leave as it means to hurt me, and just like emotionally. So we kind of got into an argument about that, and it ended up being physical. So at one point.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. So what was the argument about?
I think the argument was about using leaving as a way of hurting me, but I don't entirely remember.
Okay. And where were you when this argument happened?
We were in my living room.
Okay. And about how far away were you from the defendant?
Well, it varied, so I don't really remember.
Okay. And had you been drinking that evening? Okay. And how much do you think you've had to drink?
I think we had about 4 drinks each.
Okay. And do you recall the argument getting physical?
This is where the emotional temperature explodes. Alcohol, arguments, and memories that fade in and out, a recipe for disaster. She admits the night turned physical, but struggles to recall how it even started. That's critical because courts rely on clarity, not emotion. Yet, her fragmented memory feels genuine. It's the kind of recall trauma victims often have when adrenaline clouds the brain. Still, from a legal standpoint, it opens the door for reasonable doubt. The defense can easily argue that her intoxication and fuzzy memory make the case unreliable. Here's where the jury, or in this case Judge Simpson, must weigh emotion versus evidence. Did her fear distort her perception, or was she genuinely attacked?
And do you think that the alcohol that you drank that evening impaired your ability to understand the situation at all?
Definitely, yes. And also I was on a medication that I think interacted with it that I wasn't aware of. So I think it affected me more than I realized as well.
Okay, but did it affect your ability to remember the physical aspect of this situation?
Not entirely, but certainly moments of it, yes.
Okay. And when the physical nature of the situation started, how did it start?
I don't entirely remember. I just, because I think we were both yelling mostly, but there was a point in which I think that Mr. Riley was trying to go towards where my son was sleeping, and I was trying to prevent that. But there were a few different points where it was physical, so.
Okay. And so when you say you were trying to prevent that, how were you trying to prevent that?
I was physically trying to stop him and pushing him, so we were both being a little bit aggressive.
Okay. And at that time, did he put his hands on you?
This part grabs every viewer's attention. When she says he grabbed her arm really hard, then quickly adds, "I think he didn't mean to." It's a moment that defines the entire case. That contradiction, hurt mixed with excuse, is what makes domestic violence cases so complex. Victims often downplay abuse to avoid guilt or to protect someone they once loved. But from a legal lens, physical contact that causes pain without consent still qualifies as assault, regardless of intent. The detail about her lip splitting when he shoved the door back open is brutal, and it shifts the case from emotional pain to physical evidence. Whether intentional or not, the law treats injury seriously. What do you think? Does intent matter when someone ends up hurt?
There was a point where he grabbed my arm really hard, and when I went to get it away, I think he just didn't mean to, but he kind of accidentally hit me. But there was also another point later on that I got hurt, but that was the only point at which I can remember him laying hands on me.
Okay. And so another point later, can you tell me about that?
It was when I was trying to push him out of the door. I was kind of panicking, and I know that's not an okay thing to do, but I was pushing him out the door and closed the door, and his fingers were still there, and I thought he was going to pull them away. So he slammed the door back open, and it like split my lip. I thought it was a little bit intentional, just because he knew I was pushing on it fully, so it was like with a lot of force. But I think once he realized that he injured me, he kind of stepped back, and I managed to get the door shut and locked it. And I didn't feel safe reopening it.
Okay. And was this the front door to your home? And why were you trying to get him out of your home?
I think that I was just really scared that it got physical and that there was the yelling, and I didn't want it to be around Graham.
Okay. And at any point, as you were, you said that you were trying to physically stop him from getting to your son's room. Why was that?
Well, it wasn't his room. My son was actually like in the hall, kind of at the end of the living room. So.
Why were you trying to stop him from going to your son?
I think I was just nervous about the yelling and the aggression and level of anger being around him, and he was sleeping, so I didn't want it to wake him or scare him, because that's happened in the past.
Okay. And how old is your son?
He's 1.5 years.
Okay. And at any point, did you give the defendant any permission to put hands on you?
When she admits not in that way and states about now, it seals a critical point for the prosecution: lack of consent. No matter how emotional or complicated the situation was, the witness is making it clear she never agreed to physical contact. This gives the prosecutor leverage to argue that the defendant crossed a clear boundary, but her tone and wording also show confusion, maybe guilt. She's torn between defending herself and avoiding full blame for how things escalated. It's a tragic pattern: emotional attachment clouding judgment. Viewers can see how human psychology and the law collide in real time.
I've not spoken, I guess, and not in that way.
Okay. And when you say not in that way, are you referring to slamming the door on your face or grabbing your arm?
Yeah, just like it seems more like a physical aggression rather than like an affectionate kind of physical interaction.
Okay. All right. No further questions for this witness at this time.
Just real quick before you begin. Well, From the time you started arguing to the time that he was outside the door, how long?
I actually don't know.
Okay. Had you asked him to leave?
I think that he wanted to leave and I got hurt by that, but then we were at the point where I was asking him to leave and he wouldn't. So it kind of went back and forth.
Okay. Had you done anything that, other than what might have been you being hurt by him wanting to leave, had you done anything to prevent him from leaving your apartment?
I think at one point, I actually had forgotten, and I think it's because I was intoxicated, that I had, put his shoes in the bedroom, not like by the door, because my son has a tendency to pick up shoes and want to lick them, which is pretty gross, but, so I think that he was probably trying to get his shoes. I didn't remember that I had them.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Cross-examination.
So Mr. Riley was there to visit his child that day, correct?
Yes.
Before any kind of physical confrontation, Mr. Riley was just trying to get his shoes and leave, right?
This cross-examination changes the narrative completely. The defense attorney smartly reframes the story, turning an alleged attack into a misunderstanding. By suggesting Mr. Riley was simply retrieving his shoes, they plant doubt about who escalated the situation first. The witness admits she might have misunderstood, which weakens the prosecution's emotional foundation. That's how defense strategy works. Dismantle certainty piece by piece until nothing feels solid. This moment reminds us how one detail, like a pair of shoes, can shift the power of an entire case. It's not just about violence now. It's about perception, memory, and motive. Do you think the defense is poking holes or exposing the truth?
I believe that's what he thought. I thought he was trying to get into the room for some reason. I think I was misunderstanding the situation.
But
That's what he said when he was leaving.
But before anything got physical, he was heading towards the door, he was walking out, right?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Do you remember talking to the police right after the incident?
Yes.
And the facts were fresh in your mind?
I think that, like I said, I had to go over the police report. There were some things that I missed.
No, I'm saying at the time that you talked to the police, the facts were pretty fresh in your mind?
Yeah.
And when you spoke to the officers, you told them that Mr. Riley did not hit you, correct?
I told him, I tried to correct what I had said. It's the first time I misspoke about the part where he might have accidentally hit me in the face.
So you did tell them that he did not hit you, correct?
I told them that he didn't afterwards, when I found out that he was getting arrested, because I panicked and I didn't want him to have to go to jail.
You also told them, the police, that you did not want him to go to jail because he didn't do anything. Is that right?
I said he didn't do anything wrong.
Okay. And you had a few drinks that night? Okay. So it's safe to say that Mr. Riley was trying to leave and you were upset by that, right?
Yes.
And you tried to stop him from leaving?
Initially, yes.
And when he was trying to escape, you slammed the door on his hand?
He wasn't trying to escape, and I didn't mean to slam the door.
But you did close the door on his hand, correct?
Yes.
And he pulled back and the door ended up hitting you, is that right?
Well, no, he slammed the door into me.
Well, he pushed the door back open. How could he slam it if it's shut? You shut it on his hand and he pushed it back open, right? To get the door off his hand and it hit you, right? That's a fair.
Yeah.
So you don't think that he intended to hurt you, right?
Well, I think the only thing that I wasn't sure about, in all honesty, when I told them, was that the level of force with which he opened it again was probably out of panic, but it was also like more.
But it's safe to say that he was just trying to get the door off his hand mostly when you shut the door on his hand and he opened it.
Yes.
So he didn't intend to hurt you.
I don't know.
This exchange is pure courtroom chess. The defense corners her into uncertainty. She literally says she doesn't know if it was intentional or not. That hesitation is a gift to the defense. Beyond reasonable doubt is the standard, and moments like this feed it. Yet, emotionally, viewers can feel her conflict. She's trying to be honest, but her fear, guilt, and confusion are all tangled. Judge Simpson listens carefully. He's seen hundreds of cases like this where intent hides under layers of mixed emotion. The power of this moment isn't just legal, it's human. It forces us to ask, can someone hurt you without meaning to? And does that make it any less serious?
I didn't realize it was happening, and then he pushed very hard, so it ended up hitting me in the face very hard. I don't know if it was intentional or not.
Okay, nothing further, Your Honor.
But he knew you were behind that door.
Yes.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You may step down. Any additional witnesses for the people?
No, Your Honor.
Any witnesses for the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Closing.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Skibb just testified that she has a child in common with the defendant and that on April 19th, 2023, it was over her home to see the child. Things got heated in an argument and they turned aggressive in nature. She did not want the defendant to then see their child, as she was worried about him being around the argument and the yelling and not waking him up. She testified that at first she did want him to stay, and then after she had told him to leave, he was not leaving. She was trying to get him to leave the house by pushing him out. He had his fingers in the door. She did not intentionally mean to slam them in the door. She thought they would be moved. When he, as he was trying to get back in, he shoved the door, knowing she was behind the door, and split her lip open and hit her face with the door. I believe that the people have proven that there's domestic violence in this situation. I would ask the court to take judicial notice that this is a second offense where he was previously convicted on January 10th of 2022 of domestic violence previously. And I would ask that the court find the defendant guilty.
The prosecutor's closing is forceful. She paints the incident as deliberate, not accidental. She highlights past convictions, emotional tension, and physical injury, creating a strong case for guilt. But the defense strikes back hard, claiming intoxication, confusion, and lack of intent. It's a battle between two narratives, the victim's trauma and the defendant's panic. In legal terms, this moment defines the mens rea, the intent behind the act. Without intent, the charge weakens. The tension in the room is thick because both arguments hold emotional truth. This is where Judge Simpson's experience becomes everything.
Your Honor, Mr. Riley was there simply just to see his child. He was not there to cause any type of problem when he was trying to leave. So that Ms. Skibb testified that when he was trying to leave, she did not like that. She thought that he was trying to hurt her. It seems he wanted to leave to avoid any type of physical confrontation. And when he did try to leave, she stopped him. You heard in testimony that she closed the door on his hand, and due to there was physical abrasion seen on his hand. When he came to open the door ended up maybe hitting her in some way. There was no intentional act. He did not want to hurt her. He was simply just trying to get his shoes and leave. And it seems like she was trying to stop him. Maybe she was a little bit too intoxicated at the time. But there was no intentional act of violence, Your Honor. So that was all.
Any rebuttal?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Court is standing brief recess. I'll come back with my decision. Back on the record in the case of the People's State of Michigan versus Timothy Riley, counsel is present. The court, in hearing the testimony of Ms. Skibb, is very clear is that the first physical contact during the course of this argument, the first physical contact, Ms. Skibb acknowledges very clearly during the course of her testimony that was accidental on Mr. Riley's part. So it focuses more on the issue of what occurred at the door. And the court during its break was contemplating in a lot of ways different scenarios. Particularly given Ms. Gibbs' testimony that she believed that it was intentional what he did. In terms of that. But a number of things came to mind. That the moment that it's her apartment, the moment the altercation starts, they're arguing, they're fighting. I'm unclear as to why the defendant didn't extricate himself or leave from the premises. But that's not any testimony that is before the court, nor something that the court necessarily should consider. It's really what happened at the door.
Judge Simpson's analysis is methodical, almost surgical. He focuses solely on the act, the door, the force, the injury. He strips emotion away and zeroes in on evidence. That's pure judicial discipline. His reasoning shows he's not interested in drama. He wants legal clarity. When he concludes that her facial injury suggests more than just an accident, the weight of the gavel feels inevitable. It's not about who shouted louder, but about who acted with excessive force. The audience gets a crash course in how real courts weigh facts, logic over emotion, evidence over empathy.
The only testimony that's before the court is that supposedly, because she says that it was basically him saying that his hand was in the door. She's obviously trying to get him out of the apartment. And not leaving. It's to the point where she's got to, if believed that the hands are there and he was hurt by that, that she's having to tell him to get out of the apartment, and that in some way he's not leaving because she has to slam the door. Probably shouldn't have been in that circumstance. But then the defendant's response back on the door was to push it back. Because it's one thing if the door is just kind of, I won't say gently pushed, but even just a constant amount of force is given to the door. But the very fact that she suffered injuries to her face leads the court to the conclusion that there was much more than just a pushback on the door so that he could extricate his hand, and that he did it, and that he pushed that door with some force. The only testimony that the court has before it is Ms. Gibbs' testimony, which says that she believes that that was intentional in terms of what he did, and as she describes it. That's the testimony that the court has before it. It is enough, this court believes, to overcome the burden of beyond a reasonable doubt. And so for those reasons, the court would find, with all of the other elements having been met, the court would find that the defendant is guilty of the offense of domestic violence. However, I would not, there is an issue whether or not it's the domestic violence second. Because I don't, while it's on the complaint, I don't have a conviction. Certainly, I don't have one in this county as we looked at it that way. It's specific as to, the complaint is specific as to the date, but not as to where.
It's out of the 36th District Court. It was a referred from the Detroit Police Department, and I have the number and the ID if the court would like it. I also have the lien pulled up if the court would just like to see the record, and I have.
All right, we can pull a lien, and that may show up on, okay, got it.
And for the record, that was a plea that he took.
Pardon?
It was a plea that he took on that.
On that, okay, thank you. All right, so therefore the court would find the defendant guilty of the offense of domestic violence, second. With that added information.
Please subscribe to help the channel.
This verdict wraps everything in one chilling truth. Domestic violence cases rarely have clean edges. Judge Simpson rules guilty, but his reasoning exposes deeper human complexity. It's about two people trapped in emotion, one night of chaos, and consequences that last a lifetime. Legally, it's a textbook conviction. Emotionally, it's a tragedy. The court's duty is to protect, not to comfort, and today's verdict reinforces that boundary. If you found this case as shocking as we did, make sure to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping courtroom breakdowns.